I'm working on my first-person survival game, and I want to share some updates on what I've been doing lately. So, as you can see, the first major update is the visuals. I added a shader to make the game look way better, and I've added some models and started working on the first environment the player is going to be in. So, other than adding the doors that the player can open, I also added some containers that have some random loot inside, so the player could go and search them and get some loot. While I was working on the environment, I also added some trees, so the player could cut and get some wood from it. Later, I used that wood for the building system, but I'll talk about it in a few minutes. I also added this swimming mechanic. It's kinda nice swimming around the lake I made, but it still has some flaws that I'll have to fix in the future. So this was good and all, but the game was starting to feel very boring. So I wanted to add something interesting for the player to do, and for that I added a military base next to the spawn. So when the player spawns, he can loot around, get some guns and go to the military base. I also wanted to add 2 new guns to make the game more interesting. The first gun I added was the Rossi rifle. This is the gun I'm holding right here in this clip, and what it does is basically after you shoot one bullet, you need to cycle the next one. This makes the gun more interesting and more fun in my opinion, because you need to think before you shoot, and it makes for a nice combat scenario. I also added the painkillers, which you probably know what they do by now, but they basically just restore your HP when it's low, so it helps with fighting. The second gun I added was the minigun. I wanted to add it to make it a drop of one of the bosses I'm working on. So this gun is pretty simple. All you need to do is hold right click to spin the barrels, and after you spin it a bit, press left click and it shoots normal. So now I want to talk about the building system. First, I wanted to make the building system kinda like in DayZ. So the main focus is to take an abandoned building and transform it to your own, so you block the entrances and make new one for your base. But in my opinion, it was very limiting, and I didn't want the player to be dependent on the buildings I made for the base, so I just opt to use the kinda grid approach. Currently, you can only place wooden blocks, as you can see here, but in the future I would like to add some stone blocks and maybe some stairs that will help you make some cool structures and cool bases. So as you can see, the game is starting to take shape. The gameplay isn't that fun now, but it is kinda getting there to the point where it's actually playable, and hopefully in the next video I'll show you the boss I'm working on, and this would probably make the game a little bit more fun when you actually have things to do. But until then, subscribe and see you in the next devlog. Bye bye.